Hey everyone, Life Coach Carissa here. Today, I want to talk about living on autopilot. While this topic and the information that I'm going to share can help absolutely anyone, I am going to be talking to you working moms who feel like you're constantly running on autopilot. So we're going to talk about what that is, what it looks like, and how we can start to be higher levels of awareness so that we can decide what it is we truly want for ourselves in our life. Okay. So, those who find themselves moving through their daily routine without much thought, simply trying to get through the day, this is so common. Many working moms fall into the trap of autopilot living, juggling work, family, personal responsibilities, and without really truly engaging or being present in the majority of them. And the reason this is so important is that this way of life can be so detrimental to your health, your relationships, your overall well being and happiness. I'm going to share why it's crucial to break free from autopilot mode and how doing so can really lead to a more fulfilling, balanced, and joyful life. And let me just add that I am speaking from experience here because I used to live on autopilot. So I know what this can cause in your life. I can also guide you on how to change this. This is what I do as a certified life coach. Did it for myself, and now I'm helping others do the same. So let's start with how to define living on autopilot. The term autopilot can be used so often. I hear it a lot. Do you? So I want to get really specific on the way that we're going to look at this term. First of all, autopilot is short for automatic pilot. So this term was rooted in the aircraft industry back in the 1930s as a way to have aircraft keep moving in a particular direction without human involvement. Okay, I want to pause there for a second and remember that part because that really made an impression on me. Without human involvement. So now in the context, that I want to focus on, which is living on autopilot refers to the act of going through the motions of day-to-day life without being engaged or aware in the moment. Being on autopilot essentially means you are doing things without actively thinking about it, without human involvement. Can you sit here now and think of some areas where you are living on autopilot? Like, really think about that. I have talked openly in other videos of mine about how I was living on autopilot just a short 4 years ago. I was waking up already stressed about my day, rushing around to get to work. When I think back farther, when my kids were younger, I was rushing to get up, to get ready, to get going, to do all the things, and then get out the door to drop them off at school so that I could get to work. Then I would go about my day at work, yet again, in many ways, being on autopilot. And then lastly, I would come home and get in autopilot again with my family in the evenings, right? I had these routines, these habits. And since I have changed my life, I've really began to notice more around me, you know, feeling and witnessing the stress of others, oftentimes mothers. I see parents literally running to drop off their children and then running back to the car. I see moms in, the drop-off line at school, and they're applying their makeup while they're driving through the drop-off line. And I think, gosh, does it have to be that way? Why do we do this to ourselves? How long can we keep this up before something breaks? And sometimes now I feel like not a very nice person for pointing this out, and noticing this and thinking these thoughts because I used to be that person. So please know if I'm describing you that I do have the utmost appreciation and understanding of the loop that you're caught in. But I now have this gift to see it differently. And I think it would really be wrong of me not to share it. And I know it doesn't have to be this way. I mean, areas when I think back where it was really impacting my life of living on autopilot, I was on autopilot with over consuming wine. I was on autopilot with scrolling for hours on my phone. I was on autopilot with overworking in the evenings. I was on autopilot with checking my email on my phone constantly. I told a story how I was on vacation in Florida with my husband out riding bikes on a beautiful day, and we stopped to wait for a bridge to go up to let the boats pass. And I pulled out my phone to start checking my email. And when he asked me, "Are you checking your email?" I was like, "No." I was so embarrassed, right? Autopilot. I wasn't even present or aware in that moment. I was on autopilot with my worrying about everything. And I've also talked about how worrying gives us a hit of dopamine. So it actually feels very productive and necessary oftentimes. I had really become on autopilot with my faith and my spirituality, just sort of going through the motions. I was on autopilot with saying that I never had time and that I never had time for my self-care. I was really on autopilot in my marriage and other relationships, thinking that they would just take care of themselves, right? And I was on autopilot with how I parented my children, saying the same things over and over like a broken record, not really connecting with them effectively to understand them as an individual human being, not just my narrative that I wanted to lay out for them. So I was on autopilot. I was doing these repetitive behaviors and habits and actions over and over and over again, sometimes not even realizing it. So why did I do all that? And why do you do all the things that you do? Our primitive brain looks for streamlining and repeating behaviors to save energy. This is how we were designed. But you have this untapped superpower. You have this prefrontal cortex that you can tap into. You can form new neural pathways and rewrite those pathways in your brain. You just need to be shown a way to overcome this lifestyle habit once and for all. And that is what I did. First having awareness and understanding why this is happening was super helpful. And then I began to look at the negative results that autopilot living was creating in my life. And then I had the motivation for why I needed to change this, right? Things in my life weren't going all that smoothly. So there was some evident motivation that was coming about of like why I needed to change the way I was living, my health, my relationships, so much. So to live our lives on autopilot means that we stop thinking about what it is we actually want for ourselves. I mean, who wants that? No one wants that, right? We want to be in charge and choose how we live our life, right? But that's not what we often do. We get into that autopilot living. So I want to talk a bit more specifically about how living this way can impact numerous areas of your life. And I know it did mine, right? Number one is your mental and emotional health. Stress and burnout, when you're constantly operating on autopilot, the demands of work and family and personal life can really become overwhelming. And that can lead to this chronic stress and burnout. That continuous strain can really negatively impact your mental and emotional well-being. You'll also find that you feel this lack of fulfillment. Without conscious reflection and intentional actions, it's easy to lose touch with your personal goals and desires, which results in you feeling this emptiness and like a lack of purpose. You wake up one day and you're just like, I'm not happy with my life. I'm not fulfilled. I have regrets. I haven't done what I wanted to do. I want you to bring that awareness in now, not later. The second area is physical health. This neglect of self-care. Busy schedules are often going to mean that self-care is pushed to the side. I know for me, I would have a calendar of things I needed to do in my career. There was really nothing on there at all for taking care of me. And it was like, well, if I have time at the end of the day, I'll get to that. Well, you know what? I never got to that. It was always a struggle. When I did go out and take time for myself, I would feel guilty that I wasn't doing something else that I should be doing. So regular exercise, proper nutrition, adequate sleep, these are all essential for maintaining your physical health. But those things are often the first to be neglected when you're running on autopilot. And when that way of living becomes a habit, what need do you have to change it? It feels normal. Your body and your brain likes repetitive behaviors. That's where its comfort zone is. And so health issues can come as a result, right? That prolonged neglect of self-care can lead to various health problems such as weight gain, heart disease, and other stress-related conditions. I was dealing with anxiety and depression and weight gain, and I was buffering with alcohol and food, and my numbers and my health were beginning to show that, right? And it was going to be evident that I was going to have a problem at some point. As my doctor had said, it's not a matter of if, it's when, Carissa. So you need to make some changes. The third area I want to talk about is family relationships. You know, overall, there's this reduced quality time because operating on autopilot often means just going through the motions without fully engaging with your family. This can lead to missed opportunities for meaningful interactions and bonding with your children and your spouse. Man, I think about times we went to the zoo. I wasn't there. I was somewhere else. That autopilot living didn't know how to go to the zoo and really, really enjoy themselves. I couldn't go out and just enjoy a visit to the park. I was probably pulling out my phone, and my kids were watching that. Autopilot. I'm not even conscious of what's happening in that moment. It's so just motor memory of just picking up that phone, right? And so you get this emotional disconnect, this lack of presence, this emotional availability that you aren't having, right? It can really create a sense of disconnection, and it can strain relationships, potentially leading to misunderstandings and conflict, and your children not feeling that emotional connection from you. Oh, I think about all the times that I did that. The fourth area I want to talk about is your professional impact, right? When you're in your career and you're on autopilot, you have career stagnation, right? You're not actively engaged in your career. You might miss opportunities that are coming up for growth and development because you're so into your routine of autopilot living. And this can really result in overall job dissatisfaction and really can hinder your career progression. And then also living on autopilot can really reduce your overall productivity and your effectiveness at work because you're less likely to be innovative or proactive, right? I have fallen into this trap even in my new company that I've created because I'll get in this autopilot behavior of what I need to do. And I'm like, wait a minute, like you're not thinking about anything a little more challenging here. We got to push ourselves a little bit, right? So I actually look for ways to get myself out of that autopilot living. It's just not a great place to stay. You got to be aware of it. The fifth area I want to talk about is personal growth. You know, it really can stifle your potential. Living on autopilot means that it's going to limit your self-awareness and personal growth. You may miss opportunities to really discover some new interests that you like, or develop a new skill, or realize your full potential. Okay. And sometimes when you're living on autopilot, it's easy to like not even have personal goals. You know, without being intentional and have goal setting, it's easy to just drift through life without a clear direction, which can really, again, lead to that sense of stagnation and dissatisfaction with your life. We can solve this though, right? All these things I'm talking about, we have the answer to, and that's the great news. The sixth area, the monotony and the routine, right? You know, a life on autopilot can really become monotonous, and it can lead to this boredom and dissatisfaction. So we really have to break free from that routine and seek new experiences that really can overall enhance our happiness and fulfillment, our overall well-being. You know, what are your dreams, right? What are those unrealized dreams? When you don't take the time to reflect on your life and set these intentional goals, you are going to risk not ever pursuing or achieving what your dreams and aspirations are. And the seventh area is the impact on children. And this one I hold very near and dear to my heart because I've been there, I've done that. I've seen the beginning and the middle and where I am now, getting towards that, you know, end where my children are going to become adults. And so, you know, there's so much role modeling here. Your children learn by observing the parents. And when they see you living on autopilot, they may adopt similar habits that's going to impact their own ability to live a conscious life and make intentional choices. You know, we need to be audible and verbal with them about this and be like, hey, you know, it's very easy to get into an autopilot way of living, but constantly check in with yourself and ask yourself if you're honoring what's true to you, if you're challenging yourself, if you're enjoying yourself, if you're looking at your future with optimism and possibility, right? And they really need that emotional support piece from us. They need the emotional support and guidance. And a parent that's on autopilot may be less in tune with their children's emotional needs. I know I was, and that really can affect their development and their well-being. So please, if the other reasons that I've mentioned, don't motivate you, let's look at our future with our kids, right? And let's really be conscious of how we're showing up and the example that we're setting for them. This technology is great that we have in our lives, but I believe it is a stealer of a connection with our children and setting a good example for them. Um, we want our children to be wise with using technology, and we're trying to guide them, but how much of a challenge is it for us as the adults? It's hard. I just shared something where Dr. Oh, I'm going to get the name wrong. Last name was Alta, and I heard it on a podcast I was listening to. He shared that we lose 20 years of our life. By the time we're 80, I think we lose 20 years of our life with being on a device. And he made the point of, when you turned 80, if you could get those 20 years back, what would you do with them? And how would that feel? And that really made an impact on me. So I've already been doing this, but I became more vigilant and making sure that I don't have such an autopilot attachment with my devices that it's just happening and I'm not aware of myself picking up that phone and scrolling, and the time that I'm losing and what I'm ignoring around me that's happening, right? Whether it's at a dinner table or it's just, my kids are in the room somewhere, but when I'm so in that phone, like, they may not have that conversation with me, and I want to be emotionally available. So, again, these things were all me in so many ways, and they're things that I still work on. And I just couldn't see other options for how to live my life. And I really didn't think that I was doing anything that harmful to myself or my family when I was in the beginnings of it. But I then began to realize later on the results of living that autopilot way. And the truth is, it doesn't have to be like this. Permit yourself to challenge your routines, your ways of living. Yes, we are creatures of habit, and habit can be helpful for us, but it can also be very detrimental to our health and our well-being. And a big reason for the danger is that we often can't even see it. We are so unconscious in our behaviors and our actions. So I want to bring you into awareness and bring you into consciousness. Living life on autopilot as a working mom can really have these wide-ranging negative effects on your health, your relationships, your career, and overall life satisfaction. So to counteract this, it's essential that we practice mindfulness, that we set intentional goals, that you actively are engaging in all areas of your life. And this not only benefits you, but it also sets that positive example for your children, and it improves the quality of your family life. Taking the time to reflect and plan and make conscious choices can really lead to a more fulfilling, balanced, joyful life. Your home can become more joyful too. So how do you change this, right? I really customize my approach to each person because everyone has a different variables on what challenges them most. So in my signature 12-week program, it's a 9-step transformation program. I guide moms on getting out of that autopilot. It's such a beautiful thing to see moms living a slower pace, a more peaceful life, and still going after the goals and aspirations that they have for themselves. So it is possible. That's what I want to leave you with, that you don't have to stay living on autopilot. Let's start with bringing yourself into awareness. Where are you living your life on autopilot, and where do you think that maybe it's not serving you? I really appreciate you watching this video, all about living on autopilot. And it really is my mission to bring content to the world that can help increase levels of your awareness so that you can be the driver of your life, choosing what you want in your life and what you don't. So if you enjoyed this video, how about you do me a favor and like and share and subscribe to my channel? I'm trying to get to 100 subscribers because you get a little bit extra features at that point. So my growth has been slow and steady, which I'm so grateful for. But if I could get up to that 100 level, that would just make me super happy. This really will help me expand my reach and get in front of more individuals who could benefit from this message. So and if you'd like to know more about my work, the coaching that I do, please visit my website, lifecoachingwithcarissa.com. You can find more information about me, why I became a coach, and the impact that it had on my life. You'll also find on there times that you can schedule a complimentary session just to have a chat with me. We can address any concerns, problems, issues, apprehensions you have. of what it might look like to work with a one-on-one transformational coach like myself. I do offer individualized, personalized sessions where you can just purchase those individually, or I have the 12-week total transformation package where you work with me one-on-one for 12 weeks to reframe your brain, learn self-coaching tools, and really up level your life just like I have. Sometimes I feel like I have to pinch myself for the life that I've created, and I'm so grateful for all that I've learned, and I just want to share this with others. So I'd be so happy to talk to you about these opportunities to improve your life anytime that you'd like. So book a time with me. You won't regret it. All right, everyone. Have a great day, and I will see you in a couple weeks.